Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 934. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
I'm George Conger. Today is October 5th, 2025.
All right, welcome to October. Yay, fall's here. I outside the RV here, leaves are falling. It's at a rapid pace. This place is going to be covered in no time. George, you're back from your trip. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we get too far into the program, please like, subscribe, go to the comment section and comment. Not a lot of commenters on the last episode. It was probably too full of information for you. And if you've not shared this episode with friends, family, or foe, please do so when you have a chance. George, how you doing? Welcome back to Florida. You spent the better part of your week helping your daughter move from Seattle and then drove a truck through places I've driven. It's amazing. But you did it all in a very compressed, quick time lapse. So how are you doing?
Fine. I flew out a week ago Tuesday, packed Wednesday, Thursday, left Friday morning with the truck and drove. It was a wonderful drive. Myself and two cats in the truck cab. Across Washington, down through Oregon, across Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, down to Florida. 4.5 days of driving.
That's crazy.
And it's extraordinary, Kevin. I am more encouraged by our country now than I was before my trip. My daughter lived in an apartment. My daughter has moved back home with us. She's just turned 30. She has some medical issues and some emotional, spiritual, psychological issues. And that's weighing on me very heavily.
Sure.
It's a tough time. I hate you, don't leave me sort of world. Well, she lived in an apartment that was third floor of a little cutesy street, and I had to back a truck in, get a permit from the city of Seattle. And the ground floor are all little shops, and then apartments above that. 80 steps, no freight elevator. And unfortunately, I got an all-day permit from the city, and I parked in front of her door. And next to it's this little hippy-dippy shop where there's like a bowl of incense burning outside and all these sort of gauzy type dresses and mats and little bowls and things. And there's this, so I'm moving stuff up and down. And I hired some movers to help me because I wanted to get out
80 steps, yeah.
80 steps. And she said, are you moving in or moving out? And I said, I'm moving out. She said, well, I don't recognize you. She said, well, I'm moving my daughter out. She said, I think your wife came in a few weeks ago and bought a dress. And I said, yeah, I guess that, because I remember my wife bought this, where would she ever wear this? In Florida dress, but there you
Hippie dress.
Okay, so I'm talking to a black hippie, a woman in her 50s. And within 5 minutes, we're talking about Jesus Christ. And we had a wonderful spiritual conversation about the power of God in life circumstances. Time comes to load up her car on the trailer that I'm towing in back of the truck. Now, picture this. I've got a truck and a trailer on a street with cars double parked on both sides of the street. I'm trying to get this Jeep onto the trailer by myself. And I pull it up and one wheel's halfway off, pull it back. I'm not doing a good job. And this guy walks up and says, can I help you? I say, oh, yeah, if you could just direct me. And he directs me. I get on, he helps me strap the tires down. We put up the ramps and we're chatting. And he says, I guess you're moving. And I said, yes, we moved in Florida. And the long and the short, and he said, what you're doing looked like more fun than what I was doing in my office. And guess who we started talking about? Jesus Christ. Now, here I am in, I don't want to say atheism central, but the Northwest is pretty dead.
Progressive. Yeah.
It's like New England. It's one of the spots in our country where there's a lot of churchiness.
Nope.
And I'm dressed in a pair of jeans and a white T-shirt. I'm not, dressed as I am now. And I have two total strangers talking to me about Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Not where they're proselytizing me, but just in conversation, faith comes out.
Yeah.
Stopped to get a hamburger in Snowville, Utah. And this little girl behind the counter says, "Oh, I see you got a truck. And where are you headed?" I said, "To Florida." She said, "Oh, I've never left Snowville, Utah. And I live my life by imagining all these exciting places you're going from.
Sure.
From Seattle and this and that." And just, as I'm eating my hamburger at the little luncheonette stand and she's talking to me, I'm just thinking, what a wonderful country we have with wonderful people. I saw antelope in Wyoming. They're bringing in the potato crop in Idaho, harvesting wheat in Nebraska, cattle being driven up to the feedlots along the side of the highway in Missouri. I mean, it's just, and America is so clean. Seattle's filthy, but America, it's clean, it's orderly, and the people are lovely and kind and neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I arrive home and I think, oh crap, life now starts again.
Yeah, back home.
So there you go.
Yeah, surprise, George. ACNA's having a little crisis going on. More crisis for us to report on around the world. But lo and behold, you arrived home to announce the new Archbishop of Canterbury, who is
Sarah Mullally, who is the Bishop of London.
Yeah.
It was announced today in London, today, October 5th, that she will be the next Archbishop of Canterbury in succession to Justin Welby. Now, she had not been one of those names pushed to the front in the voting of the touting and this and that. And you and I actually picked Justin Welby last time around.
Yeah, we were way off.
we had that down. But this time around, we didn't really get involved in the handicapping. But I'm not surprised. Mullally is an insider. She's just another member of the nomenclatura, the ecclesiastical elites.
Well, let's back up. It took a long time for a new archbishop to be chosen since the resignation of Archbishop Justin Welby. And we're going to interview the Prince, the Crown Nomination Committee. We're going to interview everybody. We're going to really figure out who the people want to be the next archbishop. I thought for sure, going this long, the surprise nominee would be Buddhist or Muslim or some other faith, so that we could unite all faiths. So, in having Sarah announced, I'm not completely upset, but I'm kind of relieved it wasn't even worse.
Well, I have no. This changes nothing. It actually makes things a little worse because the trajectory of the Church of England will continue in the path that it has found. There was talk of bringing in someone with great pastoral skills to overcome the abuse and the image scandals. And Gully Francis de Coney, the Bishop of Chelmsford, was the woman who was touted for that. And then there was, Pete Wilcox, the Bishop of Sheffield, to bring in sort of energy and vigor and, and even Rachel Treweek, a hard left woman, still. All of these people have more skills, but they're not safe like Sarah Mullally. Sarah Mullally will not change anything. She will not improve anything. And I'm actually only surprised because, a woman appointment would cause trouble with the wider Anglican world. Mm-hmm. Just any of the women. But Sarah Mullally has particular skeletons in her closet on the safeguarding issue.
The coroner.
Yeah. And GAFCON was the first out of the boat. What is it? What word am I trying to use?
I don't know.
And
first respond.
The Archbishop of Rwanda, the president and chairman of GAFCON, writes, "News has finally arrived after months of prayer and long waiting, but it's with sorrow that GAFCON receives the announcement today of the appointment of Dame Sarah Mullally. This chosen leader will further divide an already split communion." So, from an international perspective, what Justin Welby killed, Sarah Mullally will now bury. The primacy of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, this has long-term implications for everything from ecumenical relations with the Vatican. Why should the Vatican have a representative to the Archbishop of Canterbury when he is just one among many? And in fact, one of the less, why GEFCON or the Global South can rightfully step in and say, sorry, Leo, if you want to talk to Anglicans, you really got to talk to us. Don't bother with Sarah Mullally. But but what really shocked me is the Church of England is safeguarding has been one of its major failings. And Sarah Mullally has blood on her hands. These are not my words, they're the words of those involved in the Alan Griffith scandal. And let me just remind viewers about that. Alan Griffith was a London diocesan parish priest. He was a gay man. I don't believe he was partnered. He is of a type. Mm-hmm. And there was a fellow named Martin Sargent. Martin Sargent was an administrator of the Diocese of London who eventually wound up going to jail for stealing millions. One of the things Martin did was on the diocese's time and dime, meaning he was paid to do this, he compiled dossiers on 42 suspect clergy. Clergy suspected of everything from financial to sexual to moral misconduct. And Alan Griffith, because he was a gay man, Martin Sargent accused him of being a child molester. Okay. When Sargent leaves the diocese, Sarah Mullally is the new bishop. He hands the files to Sarah Mullally, who sits on them for 2 years. She doesn't send them to the police. She doesn't do an internal investigation, nor does she inform the people that, Martin Sargent has written a report telling me that you're a pedophile. She doesn't do anything. But then about 2 years in, she basically dumps the files, and Griffith finds that he's under investigation for being a child abuser. And the information is basically assumed to be correct because it's coming from the official Diocesan London files. Griffith commits suicide because of the shame and because of feeling trapped by an institution that is betraying him and destroying him. Well, the coroner in London looked into this, and I'll read a bit of a passage. The coroner ascertained that in the case of the Reverend Alan Griffin, outright lies have been told which caused him to commit suicide. Because the truth of the allegations had not been investigated by Bishop Mullally before he was accused by the comments in the files. It was a tragedy she caused. Complaints were raised about Mullally's mishandling of this based upon the official coroner's report, and Justin Welby shelved it. Mm-hmm. The Diocese of London did an internal review, and the bishop, all attempts to complain to the Archbishop were blocked, and the investigator covered up her gross misconduct, and the Bishop of London has still not been held to account in any way. She's not fit for public office with the duties of any importance. I'm reading this letter, and this is several years old now. Because Sarah Mullally is one of us, the elites, she can basically stand
away
by
from it,
and see a man driven to death. Mm-hmm. I don't get why the gay clergy of England, the gay lobby, are not up in arms, mm-hmm. because Mullally stands by gay men, automatic pedophile. That's the message Mullally put out. I don't know why they're not having hysterics. And for the conservatives, Mullally is pushing the whole LLF gay marriage thing. She's not a very competent administrator. She's not a very good public speaker. She's not a theologian. She's not a good pastor. You mentioned the word dame. Dame is the female equivalent of a knighthood.
Mm-hmm.
She received the knighthood for her services as the chief nurse of the National Health Service. She then went into ministry as a second career. So she's always been promoted and pushed forward. She trained at St. Melita's, which is sort of a community college type seminary in the Diocese of London. I'm sure it's a good place, but she didn't have a rigorous, extensive education. And she's been honored by the government for her civil service work. That's not translated into being an effective bishop. And maybe this is the reason why she was appointed, sort of a Joe Biden situation, to have a dead hand, to have a wax effigy at the front to allow the insiders at Church House to continue to drive the machine.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can argue whether or not Rowan Williams or Justin Welby was the first nail in the coffin for the Church of England, but I would say this is certainly the last nail before burial. It's interesting, but this makes all things different. No, because GAFCON had already assumed they could not work with the Church of England or that there was no future with Canterbury. So that doesn't change a lot. Is it disappointing for the GAFCON? Yeah, it is. But this does strengthen the role of the Global South in the future of the Anglican Communion, as well as GAFCON's role in future church planting and mission work. So all things yesterday are the same today, just with different characters at the headship. Hopefully this allows GAFCON to work together more effectively, knowing their mission is not to convince the Church of England of anything. It's to serve and minister to the Church of England because they have no seat available for leadership. The seat of Canterbury remains vacant, in my humble opinion. So it is what it is, George.
Well, it's a shame, because a good leader can turn things around.
Sure.
Look at the United States. Look at, for goodness sake, look at, so this will upset some English viewers, but look what Margaret Thatcher was able to do.
Sure.
After the bad old days of the 70s in Britain.
Yeah.
And Sarah Mullally is not Margaret Thatcher.
No. However, we are supposed to do what as Christians? We're supposed to pray for our leaderships, pray for the leaders of the church, keep Sarah Mullally and the other leadership in the Church of England in prayers, and ask that God would certainly lead Sarah closer to him, and maybe in that intervening intercession, we would find some hope for the Anglican Communion. George, let's move on a little bit. We want to cover more of the jurisdiction of the armed forces, or chaplain. So the armed forces. Sorry if I get all that screwed up. And the ACNA news. We have a little bit more. Let me pull up the show notes because I put it way back here. Let's see. Before we get to what you wrote here, we did we did a episode last week with Jeff Walton and his article that he wrote about what was happening between the two sides. I want you to be sure to read that. I'll have a link here in the show notes. It's on Juicy Ecumenicalism. Can't pronounce that correctly. It's also on Anglican.inc. George, I received my first Meet the Lawyer letter. You got one as well, and Jeff got one. And so it kind of enhances things. The lawyer was clear to point out, there's a lot of defamation and libel going on around here, and we want to draw everybody's attention to that. That's great. I actually had a chance to look up the website of the law firm, and the lawyer has some really good articles he's written for some other magazines and stuff, that he's pretty solid in understanding how to work through some Christian religious or institution arguments or divisions. And so I'm kind of hopeful after reading his things, but he is also an employed lawyer and has to do what his client wants. So it is what it is. George, what is the latest update that we've learned this week?
Well, since your broadcast, there was an all hands video conference led by Bishop Jones with the chaplains of the jurisdiction. That has been transcribed and the transcript shared. And in the transcript, Bishop Jones said that he is working with the Church of Nigeria to pull the jurisdiction back into Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And he defended himself vigorously from the charges of misconduct. The charges that have been circulating, and we have no way of knowing whether they're truth or not, we just know that this is what is being said,
Mm-hmm.
is that he's been engaging in spiritual abuse, of bullying.
These are accusations he's being accused of, allegations.
And there are also accusations of financial misconduct
Mm-hmm.
concerning the tithing policy of the jurisdiction. These are accusations. We don't know if they're true.
Mm-hmm.
The jurisdiction requires of its active members that they tithe 10% of their salary from chaplaincy to the jurisdiction. And in exchange, they will be considered persons, chaplains in good standing. Those who disagree with this policy say this is a pay-to-play system, where unless you pay the 10%, you will lose your job. The Army
endorsement. You won't be endorsed.
You'll lose your endorsement. Steps will be taken that will cause you to lose your endorsement
Mm-hmm.
from the jurisdiction. In response to the letter that Kevin and I received, and Jeff Walton received a different one, the lawyer invited us to ask questions of them,
Mm-hmm.
which is very kind of him. I appreciate that. And I said, here's what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
In his letter to us, the lawyer said that leaders of the ACNA have been slandering and defaming Bishop Jones. And I said, well, okay, could you tell me who has said what? Give us some examples. And then I said, this is what's being said about bullying and the tithing issue. Can you give us some, could you give us some response to that? And then finally, what lies behind all this? What do you think is causing this dissension? Well, the lawyers wrote back and did not respond to this, but instead said that, we suggest we do this, that, and the other. So we're in the middle of trying to figure out how to nail the facts down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but we have been able to nail some other facts down. One of the accusations made by Bishop Jones's defenders, I've not heard Bishop Jones make this accusation, I've only heard his defenders make this accusation, is that some of the ACNA bishops who are leading the investigation against him are unclean. And specifically, it was alleged that Julian Dobbs of the Diocese of the Living Words had engaged in financial misconduct. Monies meant for the jurisdiction were to be monies that were to pass between the jurisdiction and the diocese, or somehow or another were misdirected and mishandled, and Bishop Dobbs was unclean. Well, a letter was released on the Diocese of the Living Words website saying an audit was conducted, and there is no truth whatsoever to accusations of financial misconduct against Bishop Dobbs. So we've had the formal response. Now, I've not read the CPA's report. I can only say that's why you hire CPAs.
I hear you playing with a pen by your microphone down there.
That's why you hire CPAs. So,
Yeah.
so some of the allegations leveled against both sides, some of them have been shown to my satisfaction based upon the press release, and assuming that a CPA's report, it's an honest
accurate.
CPA,
Yeah.
have shown not to be true. With maybe some of the charges against Bishop Jones will not pan out either. I don't know. This is a work in process. We do know, or we have been informed. We do not know.
We do not know.
We have been informed that a presentment is in the works against Bishop Jones by members of the College of Bishops, taking the allegations of misconduct, spiritual and whatnot, to presentment of trial. That's in the process. It hasn't been handed down as of this morning, and we asked Bishop Jones's lawyer, if you get this, would you give us a copy? Or at least tell us who the people making the accusations are.
Sure. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bishop Jones's attorney has written to the ACNA, the Archbishop's office, saying, basically making an offer in compromise. If all these proceedings are dropped, and if the legal fees of Bishop Jones and the jurisdiction are paid, Bishop Jones will resign as bishop to allow a new bishop to be elected, and he will admit to having made minor mistakes. So that's where we stand right now. Is it too little, too late? I don't know. Bishop Jones has already dropped, as we discussed before, he's already pressed the nuclear button and told the jurisdiction that they're out of the ACNA and on their way to Nigeria. And the ACNA has already replaced him as bishop with Bishop J. Kayang.
I need to talk to him so I can get his name done properly, but yeah.
I'll call him Bishop J. They've already elected a new bishop for the armed forces. Mm-hmm. So might be that he pushed the button a little too soon, because he's saying he'll resign, but he's already been removed. And for him to be unremoved, they'd have to do a lot of hoops, which is have Bishop J resign and have him reappointed and all this and that. So I don't know the niceties it is, but what I will say is there are a lot of hurting people. Bishop Jones is in a great deal of pain, as are some of his most fervent supporters. They feel this is unjust. Yeah. They feel he has done so much, and this is his reward, that ungrateful people, mean-spirited people are attacking him. And then we hear from those who say Bishop Jones has been a bully and a tyrant. And listening to them and their stories and complaints, it's like listening to the survivors of sexual abuse. Betrayal,
in your opinion.
In my opinion. Yeah. In my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking now not of the facts, but of the emotions. The emotions they're displaying are those you see in survivors of abuse. That they have been betrayed, and that the institution who should be taking care of them has not looked out for them. So there's anger at Jones and the person of Jones, and the anger at the ACNA for not stopping what Jones was doing and doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too, is they're equally angry at the ACNA, who's had this information now for 4 years in one degree or another, as more and more have offered more complaints. And they're like, why haven't you done anything? And when the ACNA finally did something, the nuclear option, as we described, was pulled. And I don't know, they're still in a wonder of trying to, they're finally understand that they're, according to them, they have, a shared experience. Now what? When do they get their say? And when is it safe for them to speak publicly? So
this can be resolved through pastoral leadership. One of the problems we talked about with Sarah Mullally was her ineptitude in the safeguarding affair and in pastoral leadership. If Archbishop Wood, or a person so designated by Archbishop Wood, met with I'll call them the complainants.
Sure. Good. Yes, that's a good legal term.
If he met with the complainants and allowed them to speak and vent, and they really did feel that this just, in other words, if they felt that the ACNA was listening to them, there's no deep pockets here on any side. So people it might be fun to think about, well, we could sue and we could get lawyers involved. I'm sorry, a good lawyer will tell you, well, how deep are the pockets of the person you want to sue? After you've done paying me $250,000, is there going to be anything left?
Yeah, I
I'm
got a
sorry,
used.
there's
I
no
have a
deep
used
pockets.
RV. If you want to get my used RV, it's all yours. Jeez.
There are no deep pockets anywhere in this.
Yeah.
But a kind word, a prayerful word, a sympathetic ear, a pastoral ear, both to Jones and to the complainants,
Mm-hmm.
I think can go a long way to resolving this.
Mm-hmm.
So some may not like this approach, but I want to put the focus on the leadership of the ACNA and say, okay, fellas, this is something you can fix with a godly approach, not a legalistic one, not a vindictive one. But if you truly believe, and if you truly live into what the canons say about reconciliation and restoration, take that path.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I would
Talk
start
to
with
the complainants.
I'm sorry. You know, start with we didn't do it right. We didn't know what we're doing. How can we make this up? Absolutely.
One of the things that Kevin has been helping me with my crisis with my daughter, and one of the things Kevin has said is keep the conversation alive.
Mm-hmm.
Keep talking. Don't start with demands. You have to do this, that, and the other. Then I'll love you. Start with loving you, and then listen and walk with them out of the hole that they're in. Perhaps I'm too close to a personal family situation, but I'm sort of seeing this Jones affair in the same dynamic of keep conversation going, lead with love. Don't try to demand that people do this, that, and the other before you love them. Love them first.
Yeah. And it's difficult. In this type of situation, you really need to show that you are listening. And there's never a solution if you are found to not be listening, if you're found to only have your opinion. I need to prove that I'm listening, and I need to communicate that I heard what you said by saying it back to you. That's one of the most important things. And then when I say it back to you correctly, you have to agree that I said it back and that I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and then that's the first common place that we can have a bit of forbearance to a reconciliation. Other than that, you end up, even in families, pushing the nuclear option. I'm out of here. I never want to see you again. Our oldest daughter did the nuclear option. She's slowly coming back. Our middle daughter never did the nuclear option. And our son, I think he lost his phone. That's the only reason he won't text back. And people who know Ben, yeah, he probably lost the phone. So those are the dynamics. So once again, as Jeff and I alluded to, this is a situation also as Christians we pray about. But it's interesting nonetheless. Let's move on to our next story. We have to hurry up because you have a funeral to
people will
attend
keep
to.
dying when I go out of town.
All right. Okay, there's a conclusion now to the Bishop John Howard versus TEC case. What is the latest update? As I pull up my notes here.
Bishop Howard been brought up on charges by angry clergy in his diocese. The surface issues were he's manipulating the election of a successor, that he was prejudiced against gay clergy, and this and that and the other. If you scrape off all that, basically it was a personality clash. He just was an unpleasant person in the view of some of his clergy. And when he retired, they tried to get their revenge by suing him under Canon law to be punished. Howard didn't play. He just basically ignored the whole process up until recently. And the presiding bishop has reached an accord with John Howard, where Howard will resign his orders, and the Episcopal Church will drop all proceedings, effectively leaving things where they were before he before this started, because Howard retired at the 70, He stuck it out to the end, and he was not going to get hired, and he was not going to serve in the parish in any way, shape, or form.
He leaves with a great pension from the Episcopal Church pension office, so he's set really well.
So this will not make those who want justice, or you could also call it revenge against Howard, happy. But it does, I think, make the issue essentially go away. And perhaps that's, maybe there's a linkage with story number 2. I don't know.
I know. Who knows? All right, let's move on here to talk. Okay, you put down here, this is a kind of a short, silly story, but South African church calls for a ban on Israel teams competing in the international sporting events. I'm assuming you mean football, European soccer. So I don't know. What's
Soccer,
that about, George?
basketball, table tennis, the Olympics, whatnot. The South Standing Committee of the Province of the Anglican Church in Southern Africa has put out a statement demanding that international sporting federations ban all Israeli teams from competing due to the Israeli genocide, they call it, in Gaza. We've not seen any similar calls against Iran or China or Russia or whatnot from South Africa. The South African Church has a bad history with anti-Semitism, and it's not an unexpected thing. The issue is nobody cares. And it's sort of actually ironic because the South African soccer team is banned from, I think, the World Cup because of fielding an ineligible player.
Yes. Remember that?
They're the only one. Their own country's soccer team is not going to be competing, but the Israelis will be doing just fine. This is an issue of a church or religious entity assuming to be prophetic, self-claiming the mantle of the prophet, of being prophetic, and yet being silly. I mean, you have to be consistent in these things. If it's a sin for South Africa to compete on an international sporting events, why is it not a sin for China with this persecution of the Uyghurs, or Russia with its invasion of the Ukraine, or Sudan? Let's just go through the list of North Korea, this, that, and the other. Why pick on the Jews? Well, maybe it's because they're Jews. And that's a bad habit we've seen. And I hate to say this, but one of Desmond Tutu's legacies was of a virulent anti-Semitism.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, he was a nasty piece of work on many levels.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In your opinion, let's keep the.
Well, he's dead, so he's dead. So
you're not gonna get sued. Okay. All right. Let's move on to another story. Before we do this story, we have to, and I'm going to let George explain it. What is a flying bishop? We've discussed it before.
It's sort of like a flying nun, but they're a little heavier and older than Sally Fields.
Because the last time we talked about this topic, we probably had 2,000 viewers. Okay, we're well beyond that now, and not everybody knows what happens in the Church of England. Sometimes you wish what happened in the Church of England would stay in the Church of England, but we're telling you about the news here. They need more money for flying bishops, George.
An independent review was commissioned, and it was found that the flying bishop schemes are being under-resourced. The bishops of Ebbsfleet, who is an evangelical, and the Bishop of Beverley, who is an Anglo-Catholic, they minister to parishes that have opted out of their episcopal oversight from their local diocesan over the issues of women's orders and other things. And in essence, there are also one in London and another one up in the south of England, Richborough. But these two are sort of the national ones and they're giving more and more parishes, but they're not given any money. They don't have any staff. They don't have any of the resources that a diocesan office has, yet they're expected to do much more work than a diocesan bishop will do. And so the commission basically, the review basically said, okay, you've set up this scheme, but you've not funded it to make it actually workable. You need to put more money into this. Now, with the election of Sarah Mullally as Archbishop, or the appointment of Sarah Mullally as Archbishop, you'll probably need even more flying bishop money, because I think more parishes may decide, okay, we're out of here. So, will the church act on it? I probably doubt it, because so far the flying bishop schemes have been given more lip service by the establishment than actual responsibility. And the job to evangelize England is happening in these parishes, but the Church of England doesn't want to pay for it.
No, and well, for two reasons. One, the main reason is they want it to go away. If we don't fund it, these flying bishops will go away. We get our way, and dual integrities is now single integrity. Which, whatever. Silly story of the week. The New York Cathedral Dean is installed. George, this is kind of cute. Readings came from the Quran and Hindu text, and a lot of fanfare was happening, but then all of a sudden there was a medical emergency.
The Cathedral St. John the Divine in the 70s and 80s and 90s, really last 40, 50 years, except for the last 10 years, was the happening place. If you wanted Episcopal craziness, you went to Cathedral St. John's the Divine.
Yeah.
This is where Elton John held a concert. He didn't dance, but he had dancers on top of the altar.
Yeah.
This is where you have the Hindu texts, the Bhagavad Gita read, and the Vedas, and passages from the Quran chanted by Muslim clerics, Buddhists, clamoring gongs, elephants, clowns, the whole jokiness of the church of what's happening now, ridiculousness. Well, they have a new dean, Winnie Varghese. Winnie is a partnered lesbian woman. She's about my age.
Mm-hmm.
Her wife, husband, whatever you call, same-sex partner, is the vice president of Planned Parenthood New York. So you know where that's going.
Okay.
And she is taking us back to the good old days. And they announced that the cathedral was going to have an inclusive installation service. Now, inclusive, in one sense, would probably mean different stripes of Episcopalians. We might let the Methodists in, or even, God forbid, a Catholic.
Yeah.
No, inclusive means non-Christians,
Okay.
excluding Orthodox with a small o Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the middle of this service, unfortunately, the dean's father had a medical episode, some sort of stroke or heart attack or something, and they had to cancel the rest of it. They just finished. The dean had to leave the proceedings. I think they went on with the music and some of the pre-planned stuff, but absent the newly installed dean. Now, I can't get angry or worked up about this because this is like Catherine Jefferts Schori, the gift that keeps on giving. If we're ever short of something to sort of outrage people, pull out the latest story from the Cathedral St. John the Divine.
I think I'm going to have to sign up for their newsletter. Now, hear us. We're sorry to hear about the father and his illness. We hope it turned out well. But in Episcopal happenstance, that church has really provided a great deal of entertainment. What was the other one where they had the clown Eucharist? That was
Trinity Wall Street.
Trinity Wall Street, yep.
At the cathedral in San Francisco is way out there too. You can imagine that. But this is almost more like interfaith stuff. In other words, it's not even ecumenical. It's interfaith. This is a different faith.
It's an outer faith.
I wish them well. I wish them all the joy. Because it's a cathedral in New York City, not a penny of my money or our diocese's money or parish's money goes to support it.
Yeah.
I'm not a New Yorker, so I never gave any money to build the massive cathedrals. So hey, it's like reading. Remember, we did a story about the chicken dance at the German cathedral,
sure,
where the activists had chickens wrapped in diapers, that they were blood is blood or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that.
On an emotional level, silly stories out of St. John's the Divine Cathedral are the German cathedral story. Just way out happening stuff in the wider small c Christian world.
It's not, I mean, they're not in the middle of the service bringing out a big ice cube and blessing it. Do you remember, you saw that this week, right? Where the Pope blessed, the Pope went to a climate change conference, the new Pope Leo, and at that conference they wheeled out, and I'm playing the video here for our audience, a big ice cube on a little pedestal, and he came up and blessed it and then walked away, and then some weird people came and did this earth chant dance around it, and you're just like, where's the Pachamama? Get the Pachamama. It's like
now I'm wondering, it would have been, say, here's the difference though. The Episcopal Church, we do this thing a bit more polished. If we had a blessing of an ice cube, we would then have Vanilla Ice come out and do Ice Baby in the background, or the rapper Ice T or Ice Cube, whatever.
Sure.
But oh my goodness, poor fellas.
So
they know. See, here's the thing. The dean of the cathedral doesn't know that she's ridiculous, so that's why it's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
Leo, I assume, knows this is ridiculous, but he just has to go along because he's been handed the script 5 minutes before the start of the show.
That
I feel sorry for Leo, because he knows better.
That's the biggest difference between probably what's happening right now in the ACNA, when everybody knows this is serious and they're being serious and they're taking these things seriously. And you watch some of the things happening internationally with the clearly the Episcopal Church and the Roman Catholic Church. You're like, wow, they don't even take themselves seriously anymore. So it is what it is. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode, I have to look at the number, 934 of Anglican Unscripted.
And you're if a lawyer right now, your billing hour ends. Okay, you can't charge anymore. Right here, you can only charge 47 minutes and 34 seconds to Anglican Unscripted.